And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Rugby Review. Pardon me for being a little delayed getting this episode out to you. We've got a short one this week. What we're going to be going over this week is the semifinal matchups in the URC that took place last Saturday. So a quick reminder on what the fixtures were for the semifinal. The first of the two games was played between Glasgow and the Vodacom Bulls, and the second matchup was between Leinster and the Stormers. So here is the final matchup, or the final results, I should say, of both of the games. In Game 1, we see the Bulls just edging out Glasgow to get a 1-point victory. The Bulls ended up winning the game by a score of 22-21 over Glasgow. So a really strong road victory for the Bulls there. And then the second game saw Leinster beating the Stormers by a score of 20-11. So we are going to have a Vodacom Bulls Leinster Grand Final. But before we get too much further into that, let's look at each game individually a little bit closer. So again, our first semifinal matchup was between Glasgow and the Bulls. Bulls, again, were able to secure a 1-point victory by a score of 22-21 over Glasgow. And it's a bit of a back and forth game. Kind of a tale of two halves. In the first half, Glasgow, much better team, much more disciplined team. Glasgow was able to take advantage of all scoring opportunities. Maybe not all scoring opportunities, but a lot of scoring opportunities they had in the first half. There were 2 yellow cards by the Bulls in the first half. The first yellow card ended up being the most painful for the Bulls, shall I say. That first yellow card gave Glasgow a lot of momentum and allowed Glasgow to build and extend their lead quite a bit in the first. The second yellow card, I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't think the Bulls let up any points during the second yellow card, which gave the Bulls a bit of positive momentum heading into the second half. As you can imagine, Glasgow comes out flying in the second half, trying to extend this lead, make a statement, and really take the wind out of the sails of the Bulls. However, Bulls did a great job defensively absorbing that pressure, and Glasgow actually ended up getting their own yellow card in the second half, which was a humongous momentum shift for the Bulls. So that yellow by Glasgow in the second allowed the Bulls to make a run in the second half, and I believe the 1-point lead, this scoreline, the 22-21 scoreline, was achieved by the Bulls during the yellow card period for Glasgow. But I don't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that. But again, the yellow card for Glasgow in the second half was a huge momentum shift for the Bulls. I will say the Bulls should consider themselves pretty lucky. Handré Pollard had 3 penalty attempts in the last at least 15-20 minutes of the game to kind of help build and have 9 more points on the scoreboard, but unfortunately he missed all of those attempts. But fortunately, the Bulls defensively were able to absorb everything Glasgow threw at them in the final minutes of the game. In addition, Glasgow had a handful of handling errors at the end of the game that kind of killed their momentum and didn't really allow them to get back in the game. But, this was a great game. Super competitive, super physical between both teams. Even though the tackle numbers aren't that high, the tackles that they did make You felt them through the TV screen. It was a fun game to watch. Really close, really competitive. Everything you want in a semifinal matchup. So if we take a closer look at our stats here, by and large, there's going to be some stats that favor the Bulls, some stats that favor Glasgow, but I think that just showcases kind of the evenness of this game here. So if we look at possession and territory, both of them slightly skewed and in favor of the Bulls. Possessions not evenly split, but pretty close to evenly split, and then the Bulls start to have an advantage, especially with territory. With the possession advantage to the Bulls, no surprise that Glasgow had to make a larger number of tackle attempts. 171 tackle attempts for Glasgow, 135 for the Bulls. Now, as we start to move down the stat sheet here a little bit, the next couple lines, except for missed tackles, are in favor of Glasgow, just kind of showcasing Glasgow's just strong offensive capabilities that they've been showcasing all year. Despite the possession disadvantage, Glasgow was able to make 12 clean breaks off 14 missed tackles. That is an incredible conversion rate right there for Glasgow. Not to mention, with those 12 clean breaks, Glasgow was able to have 453 meters gained to 387 for the Bulls, so pretty comparable meters gained stat there. But again, you would figure the team that is at the disadvantage for possession would have less meters gained. But again, this is Glasgow we're talking about. Glasgow, very high tempo, running rugby. They always have a lot of meters gained during the course of the day. So again, good job defensively for the Bulls. I think I've said that before, but again, the Bulls had a really strong defensive effort when they were playing defense. So it was just to try to limit the damage that Glasgow was doing with their strong offensive firepower. So again, this was a really close, really fun, really competitive game to watch. It was a good road win for the Bulls. Gives the Bulls, I believe, this is the fourth or fifth time that the Bulls have made it to the championship game for the URC. So maybe this year is the year where the Bulls will actually peak that summit, actually secure the victory, and get the grand final win. Time will tell. It's not this week, but next week we'll see how the Bulls fare against Leinster. So again, good job by the Bulls getting a really hard-earned road victory. Unfortunate for Glasgow, but sometimes this is the way the cookie crumbles in the sports world. So our second matchup, again, was between Leinster and the Stormers. And just like the first game, it's a very physical, very close competition between both teams. The biggest difference maker in this game is nothing that I put on the stat line here, but the biggest difference maker was the last 12 minutes of the game. The last 12 minutes of the game, Stormers were shown 2 yellow cards, and one of those yellow cards was upgraded to a red card. So for the last, 12-ish minutes of the game, the Stormers were playing 13 on 15, which then gave Leinster an opportunity to find holes, gaps, and spaces on the field. They had one late try after the Stormers went down to 13, which padded the lead well enough where the Stormers weren't going to come back, unfortunately. All their momentum had just seemingly gone away. Just too much ill discipline in such a short amount of time that it was just too much for the Stormers to overcome with just like 10, 12 minutes left. But let's look at the stats here a little bit. And what we're going to see is a very dominant game offensively for Leinster. A huge defensive shift for the Stormers. And it's a slight bit of ill discipline for the Stormers that really that's what did them in. So again, as we start from the top here, possession plus territory heavily skewed and in favor towards Leinster, which there's not really a surprise that the Stormers had to have 200 plus tackle attempts given how much possession and territory Leinster had during the course of this game. And as we move a little further down the stat line here, let's just take a look at meters gained real quick. 467 meters gained for Leinster, 298 for the Stormers. Huge difference between the two there. Again, kind of not surprising to see how dominant in possession and territory Leinster was. And the reason why I just bring all this stuff up is, again, to emphasize the point that Leinster had a really, really, really strong game on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, they played well defensively, but when you have the ball 66% of the time during the course of the game, you're the team that's in charge offensively by and large all game. And then one last thing to note, just to emphasize the offensive domination by Leinster, 13 clean breaks off 27 missed tackles. Not quite as good of a conversion ratio as Glasgow was last game, but essentially 50% of the missed tackles by the Stormers led to clean breaks for Leinster, which, again, this was a really strong defensive effort by the Stormers to keep Leinster from completely blowing this game wide open with how dominant offensively Leinster was. So again, I just showed the offensive stats just to kind of emphasize how good Leinster's offense was. But one thing to also note is that given the scoreline is not too, with as dominant as Leinster was during the course of this game, you would have figured Leinster would have had a 25, 30-point margin of victory. But credit to the Stormers where credit is due. Huge defensive shift put in by the Stormers. And again, it kept Leinster from completely blowing this game wide open. But the defensive effort, obviously not enough to win the game. Again, the bit of ill discipline at the end of the game completely killed any momentum or any chance Stormers had of coming back and beating Leinster late in the game. So that's the way the cookie crumbles this particular game. So good on Leinster for maintaining discipline throughout the entire course of the game, sticking to the game plan, sticking to the system, and securing a strong victory at the Aviva, allowing them to go to the grand final to try to win back-to-back championships. And so with that said, next Friday is going to be the grand final between Leinster and the Vodacom Bulls. Since Leinster is the higher-ranked team, they will be the ones who are lucky to have the home game. So we'll see. Can the Bulls put in another huge shift, another huge road effort, or will Leinster be able to use that home field advantage and secure back-to-back grand final victories? We shall see. That is it for this week. And if you made it this far in the video, thanks again. I appreciate it. If you liked the video, please feel free to like the video. If you liked it enough, please subscribe. Helps out with the algorithm and all that stuff. Again, so that's it for this episode. Again, thank you for watching. No URC this current weekend, but the Prem has their semifinal matchups this week, and the first round of the French La Barrage is also taking place this week as well. So there is plenty of rugby to go around and to watch this weekend. So I hope everybody enjoys the rugby that is being played this weekend, and I hope everybody is ready for, hopefully, fingers crossed, a very competitive grand final between Leinster and the Bulls. Until next time, enjoy the rugby, and I will see you then.